Heidi ho, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Sharon Combs, and this is Knowledge or Nonsense. Y'all know what it is. It's where we vet the patterns, the processes, the perspectives to see is something knowledge or is it nonsense, or where does it sit on the spectrum, somewhere in between those things. It's been a really good year thus far. We're in our authenticity series where we're looking at how does it reflect or how does it impact us professionally and personally when we decide to show up authentically as our authentic selves? Like, is that a catch-22? Does it go against or does it help promote you and make you be more visible in a positive way? Can you become more visible in a positive way? So we've been looking at authenticity. I want to thank Coach Chester Nichols. I want to thank Crystal Westmoreland. I want to thank Anita Cassell, Dr. Edna. I want to thank the individuals who have been our guests thus far and the guests that we have coming up as we look at this from all areas, regardless of sex, gender, socioeconomic status, whatever it is. We just want to look at how does authenticity apply. Now, tonight we'll be looking at it in a healthcare standpoint and on a healthcare career to see how that looks. How does authenticity show up? How does it look there? We'll do that when we come back. Until that time, go ahead, get comfortable. If you do not want to place your comment into this comment forum, but you want your comment to be addressed, please text 214-717-5921. That number again is 214-717-5921. You can text that there to that line. It will just stay private. We don't put out anyone's names on those things. And we find a way to get those questions out so that they can be addressed and the people can get information that they need or that they want so they can make more informed decisions. That's all I have for y'all right now. We're going to take another couple of seconds, and when we come back, we'll be here with our guest and we'll talk about authenticity. See you in just a second. Heidi ho, how are you doing, Dr. Edna?
Hi, Sharon. How are you? How are you doing?
I am well, and I'm excited about this conversation we are about to have. I'm honored that you've joined us on Knowledge and Nonsense on this podcast. I do want to say a little about you. Currently, you are an assistant vice president. You've been a nurse manager, a program manager, operating room manager, director of periop services. You have really worked your way up. You understand healthcare, and I guess now as you are in these new worlds, you probably even understand more of the operation side of healthcare than when you first came in. And so I see you've done a lot of work. Have you always, oh my God, so you're pretty decent on the East Coast here.
Yes.
That's your stomping ground, right?
That is my home and my stopping ground. Yes.
That is amazing. How did you end up, even though you are a registered nurse, how did you end up knowing more about SPD?
So the interesting part about it is that actually nursing is a second career. Let's start there. Wow. I actually worked in finance for 13 years before I even became a nurse. So I was in banking. I would say at 23 years old, I was running my own bank branch, and it actually really set me up for nursing, believe it or not. So I always wanted to be a nurse, and it took a bank robbery to make me decide that, hey, I like this job, but not that much.
Listen.
So I started going to nursing school. So I was a banker by day and a nursing student by night.
Really? That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So can I just give you a hand clap? Because you decided you were going to leave, but you didn't you made a plan and followed it through.
I did. Yeah. And it took time. It took time. So when I look at, now I have my doctorate, it's just amazing to me because I went to a community college. I got my associate's degree in nursing, And then I just continued to go back to school and go back to school and go back to school. So, yeah.
When did you, do you miss school now?
Oh, no. So I never liked school. Let's be honest. I never liked school. But, the thing about it is, for some reason, God always put great mentors in my path. And so every time I got to a certain point in my career, I had someone that was, mentoring me that said, you need to go back to school. And so that's really how that worked.
When you had the mentors that you happen to always be around, did you see authenticity in their life as well?
Absolutely. So my first job out of nursing school, and I was an adult. I always loved the OR, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, because at that time they weren't really hiring new grads into the OR. And so I just happened to be doing an externship at a particular organization who was expanding operating rooms. And so because I stayed on as a nursing assistant afterwards, I have the ability to bid for a job versus, applying, from the street. And so I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. So I started working in this OR, and I was on orientation. And at some point, there was a leader there who I thought was not the nicest person. And every day I came in, they kept putting me with this same lady. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I think these people are trying to fire me. Like, this lady is really mean. And I remember one day we were doing GYN, and, she walks up to me and she's like, so, what do you want me to do? And I said, I want you to sit in the corner. I want you to look pretty, and don't jump in unless I'm going to hurt the patient or hurt myself. And so she walks off. And we were doing GYN oncology, and there was like a point in the procedure where you might walk away with like 18 specimens. And so, I'm doing these specimens, and I remember she walked over to me and she said, do you need help now? And I'm like, help with what? She's like, with the specimens. I'm like, they're done here. And she's like, oh, they're done? And I'm like, yeah, they're done. And so she looks them over and she's like, okay, doesn't say anything, walk away. And then after that case, she came up to me and she said, I want you to be on my team. And from then, this lady literally taught me everything that she knew, everything.
Wow.
And believe it or not, she became my first mentor, to the point that when she retired, she said to me, when I retire, I want you to take my job. But in order for you to do that, you need to go back to school. And that's what I did.
Wow. Wow. I'm glad you showed up. And I'm glad. See, that's authenticity though, right there. When she's like, well, what do you need from me?
Right.
You just like, let me do what I do. Let me cook.
Right. Right.
And, yeah.
Just sit over there and look pretty. I got this over here. But if I'm going to hurt myself or the patient, please, jump in. But she let me do my thing. And then afterwards, she came up to me like, you did a great job today. And here, I thought this lady was, being mean and they were trying to get rid of me. And really what she was doing was teaching me everything she knew.
So I think that happens more than people know sometimes. And depending on how you take it, you can be like, is she always on me, or micromanaging, or watching over my shoulder or something? And you could look at some things negatively, which actually could be blessings. Someone's trying to share information with you. That's good.
And that's exactly what she was for me, a blessing.
Amen. 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 All right, great. So let me ask you this then. In what ways does your personal experiences and interests outside of work, first off, how do you show up authentically at work? Like when you first came into healthcare, how were you able to confidently come into healthcare? Do you think having a career before where you ran the bank gave you professional
Definitely.
confidence of what you could do?
Definitely. And I'm actually going to be very transparent in this conversation. I think when I first got into healthcare and just based on my experience at the bank, I was great at code switching. So I don't know that I was my authentic self in the very beginning. It took time. It took self confidence, um, and it took some negative experiences to get there. Um, I think when you step into leadership, you think about a title initially, but you don't always see the stuff that happens behind the scenes. And so I definitely have my share of experiences that really helped shape the person I am today. But yeah, it's, you know, I don't think that I actually really got comfortable with who I am as a person until I started working at my current organization. And it was really because of the support of my leader. And that was the truth. Um, I will forever have respect for the person that hired me. Um, but there was a conversation during my 90-day interview with her. I never forget, I was sitting down and she was, we were doing my 90-day evaluation. And at the end of it, she says, the organization that we work for, it's been known to have a reputation in the community where, you have to know someone to get in. And she said, you're a person of color and a leader. How did I do in making you feel like you belonged here? And I was shocked. I didn't know what to say at first because no one has ever asked me that in my entire professional career. No one. And so I remember, like, after I collected my thoughts, her and I talked about it. And at the end of it, I gave her a little bit of kudos because I feel like she had to be vulnerable to ask me that because she didn't know what I was going to say. And if I said something negative, she would have had to do something about it or it would have been worse, right? But I walked away from that evaluation knowing that I was in the right place. And from there, she actually helped me really become my authentic self.
Wow, that's so good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
You're the first person I've ever heard say that someone asked them that question. You're the only person I've heard say that someone has asked them that question. And so, but I do understand it. Like I said, my name is Sharon Combs. People know me as Sharon Combs. My birth name is La Sharon. And when I
Mm-hmm.
came into this field, um, I was encouraged by someone in healthcare to, to keep my name as Sharon.
Mm.
And they were just like, I just felt like the La Sharon would give me, it may, it may slow my entrance into certain rooms is what they felt like. And I was like, and I did it. I don't know if it was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, but I tell people my name now. I use them
Mm-hmm.
both, but I tell people my
Mm-hmm.
name now. But I was, and I remember the first time wearing my hair like in twist instead of just,
Yeah.
and no one said anything, and I was just like, wow, like. So okay, I get that. I get that. I'm glad that you were placed with people like that, and that's encouraging to know that there are people like that out there. You hear more of. It seems like when you hear stuff, unless you're intentional about looking for positive stuff, it seems easier to hear negative or, narratives that inflame instead of just be like, no, somebody is out there actually trying to do it and do it right. And
Yeah.
so outside of work, do you do anything that helps you show up more authentically? Like, are there groups or do you have like,
I developed a network. So first of all, I think conferences are a great place to kind of meet people, like-minded people. And there was a recruiting agency that had reached out to me and asked if I would be willing to sit on a panel to talk about diverse roles in the OR at a big conference. And so I agreed to do it. And I happened to meet people that were on this panel that actually became very close friends of mine. And so that network has helped me in situations, because I can call upon them and say, hey, you know, this thing happened at work. What do you think? You know, and then they'll give me advice. And then there's been situations where they've called me and said, hey, you know, what would you do if? So I think conferences are a great way to really get out there, meet people, meet like-minded people, and really kind of build off of each other's experiences.
So when you met the people you call your network, your tribe, was there someone already within that? Did you build your own, or was there someone already in there that just kind of welcomed you into one?
I think it was organic, to be honest. We just happened to come together. We didn't know each other. We were just, you know, on this panel to discuss, you know, diverse roles in the OR. And it's like we instantly clicked. And I think it was our experiences, you know, our shared experiences that, you know, we were able to relate to one another. So just a great conversation started, and it just went past the conference. And so it's been 2 or 3 years now. And this one person, she'll send me emails like, oh, I think you should, you know, apply for this thing, or I think you should do this thing, or, you know, she'll send things my way, and vice versa. There's, you know, I had to have a diversity talk at my organization, and I reached out to this person and said, would you come talk to my team? And she's like, absolutely. And I'll tell you who it is. Her name is Dr. Katie Boston Leary. And I don't know if you know who she is, but Google her. But she's wonderful. She's doing a lot of great things with the ANA. But she was one of my people in the network.
Nice. So she was someone who kept an eye out and also helped you. All right. Yes. Cool. Let me do this. Let me take a quick commercial. When we come back, I want to ask about the current trends and the societal focus, like where we are right now as a society. If it helps, is it easier to be authentic now or not? Like in the healthcare world, and then I'll probably be like, well, can you tell me why, or something like that?
Okay.
All right. Give me just a second. We'll be right back after these commercials.
Those in the know SIPS Consults. SIPS Consults is hiring. Confident, competent, and consistent. Starting as a consultant and a volunteer, SIPS has grown into a dynamic group of stellar sterile processing professionals, offering excellent benefits, 401k, and consultant in training program. We are hiring certified technicians, leads, supervisors, interim managers, educators, coordinators. Apply at recruiting@sipsconsults.com or dial 1-866-615-7977.
All right, and we're back. I want to say thanks to RST Automation. That AIM program right there really helps you as far as putting your instruments together and getting educated while you're doing it. We're here with Dr. Edna Gilliam, Assistant Vice President, someone who's over SPD and surgical services, right? Perioperative services.
Yes.
I used to always be like, why is it two different names if it's pretty much the same department? Okay, I'm back. So, I wanted to ask you, the way society is now, the current trends that we have, do you think it makes it easier, or does it help us be more authentic in our professional environment in healthcare, or is it a detriment to us in our professional environment?
Well, I do think it's a help. And have we arrived? No, we haven't. But I think there is a lot of focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, not just for patients, but also for healthcare workers. I think organizations are starting to see that having a diverse team improve patient outcomes, and it does. And I can give you a perfect example. So at my current organization, we had a patient who was a person of color who had come into the organization, had been there for a period of time. And for some reason, her hair got wet. So we all know what happens when a Black woman's hair gets wet, right? And it, no one had managed her hair. And so it took another person of color who happened to be an employee who said, we need to do something with this child's hair, right? Because that's your, when you look good, you feel good, right?
You feel good, yes.
And so it was escalated up the chain that, you know what, we don't really have products for people of color, hair products. And so when you think about like systemic racism, right? That little comb that they give you, what is that going to do, for nothing, right?
I'm not laughing at, but I'm saying you're right. And I'm just thinking about like in the hotels and camps I used to go to, I'll be like,
Head and Shoulders is not going to work.
Yeah, this is not for me. Yeah.
Right. But with that escalation, we were able to build hair care products for people of color. And so now we offer a bonnet, a pick, Cantu products. But again, it took someone that can relate to the patients that we serve to say, hey, this we need more. So yeah, I think it is a help. We have a long way to go, but I think that people are more open to having the conversation.
Oh, that's so good. And you said Cantu products. That's good because that means someone up top, someone had to say, this is what we're going to do and follow it through.
Right.
Oh, yes, for that.
And I actually gave that story. I talked about that at a conference. I was presenting at a conference. And, a nurse came up to me after the conference and she said, thank you for telling that story. She's like, I've been a nurse for 20 some years, and it never dawned on me that people of color would require different hair products.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, but it wouldn't dawn. Why would it dawn on her?
Right.
And that's right. But when you have a diverse team, that is also a different perspective. It's a different set of eyes that sees things differently. We can look at the same thing and we can see it differently. Neither one of us have to be wrong. We're just seeing it. Yeah. Yeah. So that's so good. I talk about a coin. I try to explain this to people when I'm mediating, and it's like, no, one person thinks they're completely right. The other one thinks they're completely right. And on some things, y'all can both be completely right. Like no one's wrong. And I put a coin between them. And I say, your position is going to determine what you see. And sometimes, I do that even with people who are in the org chart. Entry level may see it differently than someone who's in mid management. And it's because your position is influencing what you see. one side of this coin has a head, the other one has a building or a Olympic torch, whatever. But neither one of y'all are wrong. So
Right.
yeah.
And that's why you need a diverse team. And that's why even my leadership team is very diverse, because I don't want to hire people that are just like me. You know what I mean? It's great to have people that come from different backgrounds, that have different perspectives, that, you know, when you're facing an initiative, that they will bring their authentic self to say, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. Or why don't you consider this or X? So it might not change the overall point that we're trying to get to, but I may have to modify the path.
Okay. You said your leadership team is diverse too.
Yes.
How does that show up? This question was not on the thing.
Yes.
But how does it show up? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
So
am I making this clear enough for you? Like
I will say this. So and this is something that we actually present at conferences, because this was a journey. So when I started at my current organization, it was right before COVID, like literally right before COVID. And you know, during that time, it was like the George Floyd situation that occurred. And we had developed like this diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative. And I was asked to be a part of it. And I was like, absolutely, I'm passionate about this. This is what I want to do. Yeah, absolutely. You didn't even have to ask me. I would have volunteered. So there were a lot of work streams that was developed. Like there was education, there was recruitment and retention, and it was all geared towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. So as I started this work, I told you how I participated in a panel about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I was very proud of the work that I accomplished. So we had our engagement surveys, and our engagement survey came out, and I'm reading the comments of some of the members of the team, and there was some very direct language towards the work that I was doing. And I was devastated. I mean, literally devastated. And I mean, comments about why are you worried about that diversity, equity, and inclusion? You know, we need to worry about these patients. One person even flipped it around and was like, you're racist. This is a leftist organization. I mean, it was pretty devastating. And I remember I was texting my boss and then I would delete it. Then I was texting my boss and then I would delete it. And then finally I texted her, and she came right to my office. And the last thing I wanted to do was cry, but I was devastated. I couldn't help it. And she sat with me. And mind you, we were recruiting new people. And of course, some of them were people of color. And at my level, I wasn't even involved in the recruitment of the frontline team members. But there was a clear association that people thought that these people that were being hired were my personal friends because they were people of color. So I remember her, you know, she's like, pull up these comments. Let me read them with you. And she sat there and she read them with me. And this is a white woman. And I'm devastated. And right away, I felt like I needed to defend myself. Like, I don't even know these people. And she's like, stop. She's like, how often have you worked with all white people? She's like, you don't need to defend yourself to me. She's like, you keep doing what you're doing. You don't stop. You keep doing what you're doing.
Wow.
So it was a journey. It was a journey. But now we're on the other side of that. We don't have comments like that anymore. But people were not, they took notice. They took notice.
That's why I was like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
You know,
they took notice. And, you know, so we had a retreat last year. And this is where I reached out to my colleague and I said, I would love for you to come talk to my team about racism in nursing. And she was like, well, how deep do you want me to get with it? And I'm like, well, not too deep. I don't know that we're ready for that. But, you know, expose the team to the topic. And she came and she did a phenomenal job. She did a phenomenal job. So it takes courage. It takes courage and risk.
Okay. And that's why we're really talking about this authenticity series, because it is a risk, because you actually are putting yourself kind of out there. And even as you were telling that story, it was like what you experienced is probably what the organization was going to experience, but you still have to get through to the other side. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Had you stopped immediately, you just would have felt that for nothing. But you had to go on through so you could see some of the rewards from it, or the progress. I don't even want to say reward. I want to say progress. Progress in and of itself is rewarding, but yeah.
Well,
kudos.
Building a diverse team is the easiest part. Building a culture of inclusion is the hardest part. Because once you have the people there, you still have to help them assimilate to the team. And that was the hardest part.
Okay. Can you expound on what were some of the challenges? Like, was it giving people time for acceptance or just educating people on what is and is not funny or appropriate?
It was having a lot of courageous conversations.
All right.
It was being very intentional about having, so I started having these lunch with leaders kind of sessions. And, we would ask, these new hires, what's going well? What's not going so well? And they would tell us, comments that they've heard, things that were inappropriate. And we would go back and have very intentional conversation with folks. And that's the risk part, right? That's the courageous part. And I would tell you, in most circumstances, people were like, oh, I don't know why they took it that way. Or, I don't understand why they would be upset. But then at the same time, that was your opportunity to educate them.
Yeah.
And so courageous conversations.
It does take education, because if it's something you don't normally think about, it's just something you don't normally think about.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes, me being a person of color, I have assigned a meaning. And then when I talk with the person later, that meaning is something I assigned based off of whatever biases I may have had, unconscious or not. And yeah, but because our perspectives aren't the same, or our experiences haven't been the same, something can mean something to me and not even mean that to the other person. So,
yeah. Right.
Cool. That's good. I'm glad that has happened. I'm glad your organization is seeing the benefit of it. Hopefully others will follow that.
Yeah. And like I said, it was a journey, but what I love about it is that, and see, this is why I think it's important that when you are pursuing an organization, you have to interview them just as much as they're interviewing you, right? You have to, talk to the staff, talk to the team, do you see people like you that look like you? You have to find some place that aligns with your moral compass, to be honest.
You do. No,
So,
I'm sorry to interrupt you,
yeah,
but you do. And I tell people
yes,
that. I was like, just like all money ain't good money,
yes,
every healthcare place is not the place for you.
right.
You have, it's worth it to find one that fits.
It is. It is, because once you see people that look like you in leadership, then you know, okay, I can do that too, or I can be there too, or you know, it gives you something to aspire to. And
Yeah.
it is the best feeling for me when people, I have been on interviews with my team, and the person will be like, this is just a beautiful thing. Like, I just love to see y'all in leadership. I haven't seen this, and this is where I want to be, because the new generation, they want diversity.
Yeah.
They want that. And they will leave. So it's you got to catch up. And especially now where you know, healthcare has a lot of vacancies and roles. You know, healthcare organizations have to be very, you know, intentional.
Yeah.
And so now is the time, because that's what they want.
You're right. You are so right. So, what advice would you give to somebody who's entry level about maintaining authenticity while they want career advancement as well? So, someone's coming in. Yes.
I think find a mentor, find a resource. And they don't have to be a leader. There's a lot of informal leaders that are in every department.
Yes.
And for people that have been in their roles for periods of time, find your one and bring them with you. And this is why I love SPD, because SPD, I think, is one of those departments in the hospital that are so unrecognized. And it kills me, because they are the heart of the hospital, right? One issue in SPD will bring down the whole building. But there's not a lot of recognition. And so it takes people like me and my role to educate the C-suite and educate others on the importance of SPD. And it's important to build pipelines. And it's important to have programs so that, you know, maybe you're SPD tech today, but you're RN tomorrow.
Yes.
And how do you help them get from point A to point B? And so that's what I want to do for people.
That's so good. That's so good. And that's great for retention. That's great for morale. That's great for partnership. You know, people want to, that's good. Okay.
Like our SPD technicians, we want them to become golden crowns, right? And so we have an SPD ladder, clinical ladder. We support them. We pay for their certification. And then once they get that golden crown status, we have a white coat ceremony where we don them with their very own lab coat. And it's like a big deal. We invite the C-suite, you know, we put it on LinkedIn, because we want to empower them. You know, SPD is there. I mean, back in the day, it used to be seen as cleaning dishes, but now with the advancement in technology, what they're doing there is nothing short of amazing. And so I'm so proud when they get their certifications. So we put them up on the board. We make a big deal about it. So
that's good. That's good. So actually what you just said is, I was wondering how healthcare organizations, but you were answering it. So I just threw that question right on up there, because it fits. That's good that you all celebrate them like that, that
yes.
you even pay attention to that. You know, that's amazing. And it is not, that's more of an exception than the norm at this time. So hopefully we'll be able to flip that around and say that's becoming the norm. that
Yes.
type of appreciation. I did have one more question I wanted to ask you. I was going to ask some things about TikTok. We're going to leave that out. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. I'm going to do a commercial. When I come back, I want to ask you a couple of questions about how healthcare facilities can leverage things to help people be more authentic, and about strategies that decision makers, such as in the boardroom, things they can do to ensure that authentic voices are heard and included. Different perspectives are included in decision making, like having Cantu hair products, different perspectives in there. So those are the things I'm going to ask you when we come back. But first, we're going to take about 60 seconds and run a couple of commercials. We'll be right back, y'all. All right, guys. Hey, just wanted to let you know about ScrubBALL. We just had it last month, this month, the month of June, and it was amazing. But you can get ready because the site will be up. It'll be up this week, where you can go and start nominating even now for some of those healthcare heroes. We had an amazing time. But that's enough of that. Now let's get back with Dr. Edna Gilliam, because she's going to let us know how healthcare organizations could possibly leverage platforms like TikTok. Like, how can they leverage trends that we see on social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, any of those social media platforms? How can healthcare organizations leverage the platforms to help authenticity, to increase authenticity, and people showing up as fully themselves, regardless of background, socioeconomic status, religion, or anything like that?
Yeah, I think actually, social media is where it is, whether we like it or not. And I think that organizations have a great opportunity to do podcasts and doing a segment on Juneteenth and what that means and how that impacts their organization, or having different people come on a podcast and talk about their pathway, that they got, how they made it from this thing to the next thing. Pipelines, I think, is so important. Connecting with schools in the community, and actually helping their associates become, to actualize their goals and aspirations. So I think I think social media is really important.
Okay, I think so too. Do you think that it helps us to recognize, like, even the way some social media is set up where people are giving education? Do you think it helps us? Oh my gosh. Do you think it helps us to be not as, what's it when you only see things one way?
Narrow-minded.
Yeah. Do you think it opens us up to be more open-minded toward global workforces, as far as different races and things like that?
Well, I do. I think so. And I think it allows, with social media, sometimes you don't have to be, in someone's presence to learn something. You know what I mean? You can listen to a podcast on your way to work. You can, listen to a person, without having to expose who you are right away. So, sometimes when there's uncomfortable conversations that need to be had, or you want to know something that is uncomfortable for you to ask, I mean, now you can go on anybody's social media and find the answers to your questions. Um, you know, maybe you don't know what Juneteenth is, right? Maybe you don't know how that impacts your associates of color. But you can go on and if you want to do the work, you can do the work, and you can do it anonymously, right? You don't have
Yes.
to be uncomfortable. So I think social media is important and helpful in so many different ways.
I think so. I think organizations who actually have a decent social media presence, I think it says you're welcome here to people.
Yeah, I agree.
It says you're welcome here, because when they see you somewhere outside of just visiting your organization to get better or to get whatever they need, it's showing, hey, we're here, we're your community, we're right here. It makes you feel welcome. To me, anyway, it helps.
Well, and I think oftentimes, oftentimes you may have a patient and you don't always recognize how you impact them and their life. But oftentimes you're the reason why they become doctors or why they become nurses or why they become, and so it's important to be able to connect with your community and to connect with your patient population, right?
Right. Right. Absolutely.
How can they be you if they don't see you?
They can't. They can't. And the trust won't even be there, even though you're the doctor. I know many. Oh, geez, we're hitting now. I've been in a community where a doctor or a nurse actually says something, and the trust factor isn't there, and
Right.
then someone whose grandma did herbal teas, and it's good. I'm not hating on grandma and what she got going
Right.
on. That's probably why she's 101 right now, while other people leaving sooner. But there's more trust over here with the unqualified person, because for many reasons, whatever may have happened in the past, but also they see this person, they have a relationship with them. It's like, this is my community. And so
Right.
I've seen people not listen to medical professionals, and they go towards someone. They just trust something else because the trust isn't there. And I think the trust isn't there because that diversity, equity, and inclusion isn't truly there. So even they're code switching while they're talking to the doctor.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Get the answers you need, sir. But yeah.
I mean, you can think about COVID and when the vaccine first came out and how, people were like, I'm not taking that vaccine. But, I think, a lot of people went to social media, the TikToks, to say, hey, no, this is safe. I'm taking it. Look at me take it. I'm a healthcare worker. And so, that created some trust, not for everybody, but for some people.
Yeah, it did. It did. So I do think, I hope that they begin to leverage it more, because it's being leveraged.
Yeah.
And I just hope that healthcare organizations begin to leverage it even more, because I know right now more people are getting information off of these platforms than they are from other vetted sources of, vetted authority sources, but more people are getting them off of these platforms.
Yes.
Yeah. So cool. So cool. I'm very glad that you're able to be authentic. It was nice to meet you.
Yes.
Let me think. I'm wondering if I want to ask any other questions. So do you mentor? Do you find time? Is there a part of your life where you are mentoring or giving back to individuals?
Yeah, it's usually informal. People are there is a group out there that is for Black healthcare executives. And they recently reached out and asked if I would participate in a panel for women's leadership. And from that, I had so many people reach out to me and friend me on LinkedIn. That's like, I just want to follow your career and follow your post. And, how did you, get to leadership, and what did you do? How do you deal with code switching? Do you feel like you have to code switch? So yeah, I do it informally. And I enjoy it. If my experience will help somebody else, then it's worth it for me.
Oh, that is awesome. So it sounds like they have some authentic conversations in there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't know that I have any other questions for you. I want to say thank you. Part of the show, we did a couple of commercials, but again, part of Knowledge and Nonsense, what we do, our platform, part of our mission and vision is to show the people of the industry, regardless of what the people look like. Because I know even with this platform, I want people to know, no, these are possibilities. These are positions. These are like things have changed over the past 40 years. And I'm not saying they don't need to change more. Change is inevitable. We evolve, it evolves and it replaces. And so I just want people to know, especially a lot of people coming into healthcare, they're loving it. They're coming from other careers like you did. Some I've seen with some girls in Chicago with Crystal Westmoreland, where people are talking to her because of stuff they've seen on TikTok about sterile processing.
Yeah.
I've been in, as long as I've been working within the sterile processing world, I think maybe 2 people knew what it was before they got into it.
Agreed.
And now you have people, wanting to get in from social media, from TikTok. So anyway,
no, I love it. I've learned a lot, and here's the thing. I might be a leader, but at the end of the day, it was an SPD, I would say, connoisseur that taught me about SPD. And there's so much to learn. And like I said, one of the departments that are the most unrecognized, but yet the heart of the hospital. And so this is why platforms like this is really, really important, so that, people know, and, they can call you and say, Sharon, how can I become a SPD tech? How do I become certified?
Yeah. So, yes. And all the other things, because as small as SPD is, it's also big. There, you can go up, you can go sideways. There's so many ways. And I tell them, all right, well, Dr. Edna, that's all I have. I want to thank you again so much. And thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to chatting in the future.
Yes. I look forward to having you on a panel in the future. But I definitely wanted to interview you. I want people to see you.
I love it. I love it.
To see you. I want people to see the doctor. You may not mind, but I want people to see the doctor, the AVP. I want people to hear that you have a program at your facility where you give out white coats, where you celebrate individuals who go and get that certification. I want people to know that this wasn't your first career, that you came in and you decided to be in. I want people to know the type of caliber of individuals that healthcare has, and that all of them, I think 99% of people who have come on this show, and we've had several guests, over 250, like top tier guests, they all say they had a mentor. They all say somebody helped this, somebody did this, somebody showed me this. And now they're in positions and they're showing other people. And so I definitely want to hit the shores of the next season, the shores of the next age, to be sure that we are pouring what we want, the things that we want to see out there. That's what we're pouring in, and giving people opportunities. So I do thank you so much. I look forward to more. I look forward to partnering with you in many different ways in the future and doing whatever we can do to support you as well. So again, thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you.
Y'all know what it is. Thank you. That time flew by. So Knowledge and Nonsense, we'll be back with more of the authenticity series. I want to encourage you, be kind to somebody, be nice to somebody, not for wealth or fame, but because it's just a good thing to do. It's just a good thing to do, man. It's a good thing to do. Assume best intentions too. And let's have a good summer. Y'all be safe. God bless. And we will talk with you soon.
Thank you.